yoga for Autism Services Incorporated. I also do other side projects with special needs. My journey began with transcendental meditation. For myself, I'm a cancer survivor. So I had cervical cancer at 17, so my life changed very drastically at that peak moment where you're supposed to go away for college. You're supposed to be excited for your life. Mine was kind of uncertain, so I used transcendental meditation through the Buffalo Wellness Cooperative, which doesn't exist anymore. But currently, they have all branched out, and I've worked with Qigong, Tai Chi. I've worked with lots of other forms of mindfulness-based movement. When I got into my field, I started teaching yoga while working full-time. I worked for 9 years full-time in a company, looking down, working very hard, very stress-orientated, I had a lot of expectations that I had to meet. And it was fun for me, I enjoyed it. I didn't realize I was so stressed out. You go to work, you do what you have to do. When I found yoga, I started to teach yoga to children and to adults on the side. It was kind of a fun thing. I was let go from my job based on a wage purge at my 9th year, almost at 10 years for there, but and so I had to pull what I had available, and all that I had was teaching yoga. I went and started to teach yoga, and I found that I was not only teaching children and adults how to become a little more mindful in their lives, but I was experiencing it myself without realizing that it was what I needed. So I put my resume out. I started sending out my resume to schools and just saying, hey, this is what I have to do. And like I said in the beginning when we talked earlier, I had a lot of resistance to it, a lot of religion, a lot of, well, these kids don't sit still, so we don't have time for that. We have things that we have to do. And then I was seeing to myself, oh my gosh, it's the administrators, it's the teachers, it's people that these students look up to that have the stress, that are refeeding. It's this horrible loop and cycle. We'll talk a little more later about technology as well and how that has affected children. I've also been in the yoga field for now almost 10 years, a little more than 10 years. I've been teaching for 8 years. So for me, I've seen this transition between how technology has affected children, how it's affected me. I didn't have a cell phone growing up. I didn't worry about Facebook or Instagram growing up, and in my high school time. Had that been there, I wonder how that would have changed me. Moving forward, that's about me, about my career and what I'm doing. It took me a long time to get to where I am. I took a lot of stress-based trainings, a lot of mindfulness trainings, and things for special needs and things for people who have a hard time taking in things because of their trauma. I can't go to a class and say, put your arms over your head sideways and suck your stomach in. If you say that to somebody, the wrong person, they'll take that and they'll resist right away. And that's just like how the body responds to stress. If you were in the last session that was here, we talked a little bit about how stress affects the body. A hormone, stress hormone called cortisol in the blood starts to flood the body when you become stressed. And a way to decrease that is by exhaling very slowly and being mindful of that exact moment, that exact breath. Also, let's go a little bit forward. So going into the schools, I'm seeing that these kids are having this hard time in just breathing and being still in the moment. I walk in and the first thing I say is, hi, my name is Jeanna. I'm going to talk to you guys about yoga and meditation. Does anyone know what that's about? And they all go, Om, you know, and they know this. They know this is Om. But then I see them go right back to biting their fingers, biting their nails, tapping on something. And when I ask them to close their eyes, they don't want to close their eyes. And it's like, they're peeking, they're looking. It's very difficult. I have lots of tools that I use. So I turn lights off, I use lights on the ceiling, things to get them to focus on one item. So it's not me. I'd like to know more about you guys. So if we can go around and talk about your name, basically what you're looking for here, and what you have to talk about. Start.
I'm David. I work as a school social worker in the rural community, primarily with primary school kids. And I guess I'm looking for, you talk about the loop, the teacher-child loop, ways to sort of step into that in a helpful way. And one thing I've noticed in the last 5 years is how much joy has gone out of teaching for a lot of teachers. And it feeds the kids, and that it feeds the teachers. And I sort of look at this as a way to sort of step in and sort of stop that cycle. So that's one thing I'm looking for today.
Nice.
I'm Brittany, and I teach pre-K. So I'm kind of here to look for some resources for the kids. We started to implement a little bit here and there, but
Where is it?
I'm actually at Doodlebugs. It's a daycare center, but they have pre-K there. So we're just looking for more resources for them, and specifically we have a lot of children that they don't know how to calm at all. They're just very high energy, high stress emotions, and we're really looking for regulate that, help them that way.
Nice. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Christy. I work in Amherst School District as an occupational therapist, elementary through middle school. And I also teach kids yoga classes on Saturdays and Sundays at the YMCA on Saturdays and then Sundays at a yoga studio. And I'm looking to get more ideas for what I do.
I'm Ray. I'm a Spanish teacher at Eden Junior Senior High School. I use some mindfulness with my classes. And I just thought I would like to get some other techniques as well that I could use with.
I'm Sarah. I'm a high school special ed teacher, and I'm also looking for different techniques and things like that that I can use as well.
I'm Jeanna, I'm Ash's Brittany's assistant in her pre-K classroom. I'm a second-year school psych student here at Niagara, so going forward, I'm going to be utilizing a lot of mindfulness, hopefully, in my practice, and I'm interested to hear more about it.
Nice. Awesome. The next question, if you can go around and tell me, do you, or raise your hand, I guess, do you practice mindfulness on a daily basis or for yourself ever at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I used to. I lost it for a while. So.
It's funny that you said I lost it. And that's kind of like how my life has been. I went through that hardship for my health, and I was like really into mindfulness, I went to hot yoga classes with a cast because I had also shattered my kneecap. So I was making myself do things that I thought were helping me, right? And it was just packing on. We were like onions. And so when you say that I've lost it, I love that you say that, because bodies, people, children, all ages, we are like onions, and you start to peel back these layers of feelings. And it can stem down to the moment that you are born. And if you in psychology, you know that some children who are born premature they have said, have a different approach to the world. Emotionally, they might have faced that trauma. They don't remember that. They don't physically know what it felt like. They can't describe it, but their bodies remember that, and it's that onion. And so peeling back the layers, we utilize it when we really need it. You get so stressed, I just need to take a breath, and you do it. But one thing that we spoke about in the previous thing was finding the prevention, finding the kids and giving them this tool or this coloring activity or this positive affirmation to think about or say. It's something that they can use in the future, and it doesn't have to be available right away, and it might not be available when they need it, but it's that constant exposure, if you will. It's like exposure. It's a good point of peeling it back and finding, when do I need it? When I lost my job, and I was like, okay, I need to dive into my tools. What do I have? What are my strengths, and what can I build on? And also, the other thing that I do is I also teach early childhood research center at UB. So I've worked in preschools. That was the first thing I did, was I went over to preschools, gave in my resume, and I was like, I want to work with kids. I want to increase my little portfolio, if you will, of experience. Well, so practicing mindfulness is not very easy. One thing that Danielle was saying before was that it's important to be mindful at the very moment. I'm going to repeat something that we talked about last time, but because some of you guys weren't here, there's the mindful eating. One thing that I really like to do, and you can do this with kids of any age or any ability as well. So as long as there's no allergies. So give them an orange, have them feel the orange, close the eyes, pass the orange around, think about the skin and what the skin of the orange actually does for it. Depending on the age of the kid, you can have them close their eyes and visualize the tree, visualize the soil, visualize the person or the people or group that helped grow that. And then we peel it back, we pass around the peel. How does the peel feel on its own? Feel the juice that's all over the hands. Some kids are eating it. And then the taste. Put it in your mouth and close your eyes. Go through the whole thing from step by step. How did the soil grow, or how did the plant grow? How did the soil nurture this growth? And even further down to the grocery store. Think about the person who had handled that orange and said, you know, this triangle of oranges looks lopsided, and continue to fixate on that. So much energy transfer from one to another. And so that's one tool that is used now. She's throwing me off. No, that's okay. So, yeah, mindful eating is one thing. Another example is mindful driving, which is one that I was going to use too, is having your hands on the steering wheel. A lot of us are changing the temperature, turning on the radio, looking out, and one example that was used previously was, you miss your exit. When I was in times of my life that I needed so much help, I thought that I was going to yoga, I was doing things that were helping me, but I was making my schedule much more busy. And it would make it much more difficult to be concentrated. Yes, I would miss the exit, or I would say, oh my gosh, it's 12 o'clock, I didn't even eat yet. You know, things like that. So stress, not only for ourselves, for our families, for the children that are in contact with us, it's toxic. Stress is just, it's difficult to stay away. I'm gonna go up to my next question. Expectations. How many of you guys have expectations in your classroom or with your families? Right, you have a list, usually a list of really important things that you have to do. And it doesn't end just there. It's also, you know, the whole school board as a whole. How many children are passing? How many children are in special needs? How many children are getting the special needs that they need? Expectations and behavior, participation, and concentration. These things are thrown out the window when it comes to yoga, when it comes to mindfulness. Kind of what was talked about before with Danielle. You can't force it onto anyone, especially if you don't know their story. We all have a story, we all have trauma. People will resist, and children most importantly will resist because they aren't given this tool, and their whole lives, they wake up and their parents are saying, you gotta get your clothes on, you gotta do this, you've got. And in a yoga setting, we go up to adults or children and say, you gotta put your arms up, you gotta do this. And it's creating that stress. So for me, and in my classrooms and my responses, what I do, I say, I would invite you, feel what it feels like to do this. Can you see so-and-so? I use people a lot because there's always that key person who's gonna wanna do everything, be on top, and I can use that person. But then the reinforcement for the person who's not doing it, can you see how so-and-so has his head down on the mat? Here's an example. If somebody puts their head down on the mat and they're like, I'm not doing this at all. I'm hiding, I'm the hands over the face, and I would bring the class to that child, to that person who's having a hard time, and make it uncomfortable for them. Like, let's all go down on the ground with our head down, just like this person, and then I'll talk about why it's really important for that kid to do that. The blood is rushing to that person's brain. They must needed this flood of oxygenated blood to the brain, and that's the way the body works. The body will do things based on how you feel. My next question to you guys is the power of exposure and repetition. How many of you guys have in your classroom things that you do on a daily basis, an acronym or something that you do? Any examples that you use on a daily basis? Maybe in the preschool setting, maybe there's something that you start with or anything. Even for reinforcements too.
I asked the date in Spanish.
Okay.
And often the date and what day it is.
Right. So there's a key point to start the week even too. So maybe you're talking about in Spanish, maybe it's the days of the week. That is your theme. There's always a theme.
We have like a consistent circle time that's like the same every day, and we like make it a huge part of our day only because it's like I have 4-year-olds, so the 30 minutes in the morning is like the most important time of our day. That's when I'm gonna get my most out of them.
Yeah.
So we make it really exciting and about them. So like we welcome each child every morning, and we started this new thing where we have emotion checks in the morning. So each kid has a stick and they have to place it where they're feeling that day, just so that I'm aware, they're aware, and they have the opportunity to change it throughout the day. But we always kind of start with it, which is kind of cool. So.
That's excellent. Go ahead.
As a therapist, I tell kids there's 2 rules in here. One, your rule is you only talk about what you want to talk about. And my rule is whatever we talk about, it stays private. And every time we come in, I say, you know, what are the 2 rules? You
Nice.
remember one of the rules, and after a while they get sick of it. That's then I can stop asking that. But just,
Yeah.
but it's just that they know that's part of the structure, and then I say, I haven't seen you for a week. Tell me one piece of good news and one piece of challenging news that happened last week. Big or small. And they know what's going to be happening every time they see me, and it kind of gets them into a rhythm.
Highs and lows, I love it. And one thing that was talked about previously was good stress and bad stress. Eustress is the stress that revs you up. I felt it last night when I woke up on the couch at 3 a.m. after falling asleep at 7, saying,
We were
I
up
need
at 3 a.m. too.
Yeah. And so I'm like, you know, and what I had like two thoughts. I was like, I need to shower now and then pack the car, or should I sleep more and then wake up early to shower? And it's like I'm stressing over the thing, you know. Honestly, you're already doing mindfulness in your classroom or in your session when you say, what are two things that are really important for us to know? The feelings, I really like that. The emotion, that was one of the things that I had to stop bringing everything in. But one of the things I have, one of the tools is your spaceship. Our bodies are like a little spaceship, right? We're getting ready right here. We're getting ready to take off. You gotta load stuff on, you gotta open the doors. It's pretty stressful, it's red. We are ready to blast off. Little door to get inside. Right here, a little bit up there, okay. I can look out the window. Like it looks like it's all right. We're gonna do R for red, O for orange, I'm okay. The kids love this. Up here in the next one, yellow. Yikes. I'm so far up off the ground, and there's like a little ladder in here that you can climb up. There's a couple of the levels. You can really get crazy with this. You can have like the little window be over here. You can keep on going. You can start here at red, or up here can be red over here. I use clothespins. So this could also be blast off, B for blast off in green, like I'm set to go. Clothespins, and I say to the kid, go ahead and start with your clothespin. Let me know how you're feeling right now. I'm feeling red. I'm feeling like I'm ready to blast off. My head's about to break. Or some kids say, this is red. I'm not feeling so good. I'm staying on the ground. And it's so funny that in yoga we have these highs and lows. We have grounded, being here. We have a practice that is lunar, if you will. Lunar, keeping you down low. We also have the high, the practice that's bringing you up high. Mostly it's high energy, upright, and that's for bringing you and uplifting you up and out. Anyway, so these kids will come in, they've got their clothespins all over the place, and then I use it to reinforce. So later, I'll say, okay, Johnny, your voice is getting a little bit too much. I need you to calm down. Please go move your clothespin from you're so happy and high up in the clouds. You need to come back down.
We have a Johnny.
Johnny, right? And you're just like, but you know, and I've learned, I've gone into these classrooms and I'm like, this Johnny, every day, he's right here. Like, what is going on with this kid? And now he seems to expect it. He comes in and he's throwing things because he knows that's where he is. With yoga, it's so hard to say, or mindfulness in your classroom, it's so hard to say, you've been so bad that you're gonna sit at the wall and watch us meditate. Or the reverse. You need a mindful moment. And I used to do this. I used to do mindful moments and think that they were great. Well, then all of a sudden, it went both ways. I've had kids who are like, I need a mindful moment, get me out of here. And I'm like, okay, that kid's staring at the wall for 15 minutes because he doesn't want to do yoga, you know? Or we have, I need a mindful moment. I'm not feeling happy because of what happened to me before I left my house. I see kids all the time that get dropped off. They get dropped off, being yelled at. Take your lunch. And don't touch anyone, and don't do this and don't do that, you know? And then getting picked up, it's hurry up, get your shoes on, why aren't your shoes on? You know, the parents have this sense, and it's not their fault. I mean, whatever's going on in everybody's lives, we deal with it any way that we can. My job is to get rid of all of this and be like, let's all get on the spaceship together and we're gonna go zoom, zoom, zoom. And it's an actual thing where it's a song. I actually do it and we go through the motions, we go through the movements. How do you feel? And then we all of the children will have a different color, a different clothespin, a different pose that they do. And we go through an entire sun salutation of movement and then we have the meditation. I kind of got off path, but let me go back to what you guys do and what I do. To start class, Om. Om is the sound of the universe, and you kind of hear the sound Om in lawnmowers, in cicadas, in the sound of the wind. It's a vibration. Let's do a little exercise together. You take your hands on your belly and sit up nice and tall. Feel your belly. You close your eyes and feel how it moves as you inhale and exhale. Try to take your hand a little bit higher to your rib cage. Feel that when you breathe in and when you breathe out. And hands at the heart center. Feel the inhale. Feel the exhale. So let's start again, lower with your hands. Feel at the lower portion of the body. The Om sound here is a low pitch Om, so I encourage you if you'd like to join. Take a deep breath. This is a grounding sound, grounding energy. We start this low Om seated. Take a little bit higher. Try again, deep breath, about middle pitch. Maybe take a little bit higher at the throat. So oming in. Oming in is your okay, your window. You can now see inside of yourself. I have them close their eyes, open up your window to your mind. They think it's crazy. And I'll see a kid that's not doing the yoga, but the eyes closed. I said, what are you doing, Johnny? It's usually Johnny. What are you doing? I'm looking out my window, my soul. And I have to be okay with that. Like, okay, let that be. Another thing that we do, so we Om in. Of course, it's got to be an Om like regular. Then we do a silly Om. I get creative with the kids. You pick. You know, what do you want to do? Somebody had the taco Om. Taco yum. These kids are nuts, but you know what? They're utilizing their breath. They're feeling their body move, and they're creating that connection. Body movement, shape change, creation from the breath and from the diaphragm. So as I had you hold your hands here, you felt that movement. These children, when we're stressed, and adults, we breathe from the top part. You kind of feel that, and I have them close their eyes. Feel how you're breathing. Where in your body is your breath? And they'll say, oh, it's right here. Oh, I'm mad. Well, then take what Om works for you. The Tarzan Om or the Gorilla Om. And it's invoking. It's so funny, if you know yoga, a lot of the poses do invoke certain energies. And so if someone is afraid or if somebody needs some encouragement, we use a lion's breath, a bear's breath, something that's getting out there. They intuitively pick up what Om works well for them. And we also do the whisper Om. So at the end of class, we Om into class, we Om out of class. How did yoga make you feel today? Amazing, they'll say. You know, it's things that I don't think of, and they guide the class. They really do. That Johnny, I love that Johnny because he'll be the kid who's grabbing somebody else's hand and like swinging them around, and I'll say, okay, everybody take a seat, we're holding hands now, and we're gonna do this activity together. And Johnny has no choice but to continue, and okay. Well, let me go further. As I got into teaching, I found that these Johnnies are mainly people or children who need extra help, extra attention. And that's where sometimes special needs children don't get the needs met to them. I would like you to talk a little bit more. You were saying you work with special needs children too. How do you view the way that children are, I guess, handled, if you will, with private aides or people that work with them?
I mean, I treat all of my students the same, whether they're special needs or they're not. I teach in a co-integrated setting.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's a little bit different.
Right.
So because of that, I treat all of my students the same while working to provide them with, differentiated instruction and supports as needed, but not embarrassing them.
Right, that's the hardest part for me when I'm in a classroom where I see somebody who is autistic or on the spectrum and doesn't have, that support. I see the other teachers saying, what are you doing? Get over here, sit down, focus, concentrate. There's this all the time, like look over here. And so it, like that loop, it goes right back into that feedback loop. The child doesn't know if this is reinforcing him, like, okay, I'm getting attention this way. It turns into a negative attention. So sometimes they would want you to say to them, sit up straight, look over here, pay attention, and they'll purposefully go out of their way to make themselves that center of attention. That's where I ignore. a lot of times I can't. In my setting, it's a little bit different because we're physically moving, so I'll let that person run around or do something else, like I said. Positive affirmation is really important, and the process, this yoga process that I take from all of the teacher trainings that I've done is the same. So I go into a daycare and I teach the same curriculum. I go into autism services and I do the same. And it amazes me how much I've tried to prepare and stress myself out over being ready for this. But when I get into the classroom, like I said, the children guide what they need. And my other portion of teaching is acrobatic yoga. That we'll get into a little bit more. But we do a solar practice where physically they're lifted, they're uplifted. There's one person on the ground who's a base. I'll just exemplify. So I'll be the base. And the way that this worked is that the children were climbing all over me, literally climbing all over me. So we'd sit in our circle. This is our circle. We'll om in. We'll do a little bit of movement together, but they push you down. They're physically pushing you down. The aides are like, get off of her. You know, no touching hands to yourself. I'm like, wait. Let me see how this works. So I've got them up. My hip bones, my knees, my ankles are all in one absolute straight line. The energy grounds right to the ground. I'm engaged a little bit, of course. I have to make my way up and down, but their hip bones are here, and they're lying forward, kind of like this. This is an example of bird pose. When at the end here, you guys can come up and take a look. I've got some pictures over here. But the child that's on top is utilizing so much strength out of their back, their legs, their core, things that they don't use on a daily basis. When you think of balance, they're using balance right away. This is an example of solar, uplifting, giving them energy. They're laughing, they're enjoying it. It's something that their parents wouldn't take them to a class and say to the teacher, my child's on the spectrum, can you teach my child acrobatic yoga? There's no way that that kind of situation happens unless they're highly functional. So I bring them this tool. Opposite, like I was talking, is the solar, where they would fold in half. That's not up there. So instead of being upright like that, they fold in half. So I'll visualize their legs wide, and the hip bones still have my feet placement, but the whole upper body is hanging down. And so I take my hands right at their shoulders, their neck, their upper body, and I physically decompress. So I use my arms, I use my legs, I take a breath, and I push apart their lower body and upper body. Going back to the beginning of the onion, this is where children cry, children laugh, inaudible children make sounds. Children who are audible become like stunt-founded because it's a feeling of vulnerability, and it's something that being upside down and taking apart the physical stress. So what I was saying before about the chest muscles and the chest being super labored, when they're down there and I decompress them, they have that chance, that space to breathe. So many other things going on, but the head and heart being in one line. That is just a small example of where this connection, this trust of, I'm gonna teach you kids everything that I know, and it turned into this. Now I have like acro for autism. I had no idea that this would be something that would interest me. So here's an example of how it started. Let me go back here. This is a book you guys can pass around. This is one of the first trainings that I had done called Rainbow Kids Yoga, and their philosophy is this is a process of mindfulness through physical movement, but also for everybody, for every age, for every ability. I was really turned on by their teacher training when I was there, and I was shocked to see many people taking the teacher training of different ages. Currently at Autism Services, my partner her name is Maureen, and she was at the teacher training with me. So it was funny that years later, it's been about 5 years now, years later they show up, all of these other teacher trainers show up, and they're still working with mindfulness, and they're still so shocked at the process and how much they're still learning. Some things that I do utilize. Here's a therapy ball. So creating mindfulness about any specific part of the body. Autistic children or children with special needs sometimes enjoy a little bit of pressure or sense of touch. It's something that connects them to us and connects them to the idea that they aren't different. You know, I'm not afraid to touch you, and I'm sure that they have a lot of not animosity, but they have that visualization where they go into a public place and people back up and they're like, okay, or whatever. In the school setting, I walk in and I have the aides say, stay away from Johnny because he can be violent. Johnny never did yoga with us and sat at the wall, and the aides were saying, well, he's too violent, nobody can work with him. Miss Maureen here, so smart, grabs a drum and brings him a drum so he can beat his aggression out on the drum. And now we have a song called Drumma Drumma Yoga. They go nuts over it. But this is the yoga ball. So if they're angry over anything, I take this ball. This is one example. They can stomp on it. They can push it. They're mad. Some of them are on the ground and they're so mad that they'll only do this. And just, there's no way to make eye contact with that person. There's no way to hush the noise in their mind, if you will. So the one girl who was going like this, I put this under her foot. And it took a couple weeks. It took a couple times to get her to understand what you do. And now I have this girl come to my class. She doesn't do the yoga. She lies on the ground. I give her the ball. I have 2 of them. So she does that. She puts it on her back. She's rolling her back on it. I have no eye contact with this person. I have no verbal connection with this person. Physically, she decided to do what she wanted to do with it. And all the other kids are following suit. I have to buy more balls. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Other tools. I've got, these are infinity straps. Going into a special needs room with a regular yoga strap and telling them to grab it and stretch your foot out is impossible. I get the kids into the poses. One that I was showing you before about being upright. I get them into this pose and they get discouraged. Can't quite reach it. So I go up to them and I physically connect them, physically give them this. They have that mental connection, this muscle memory, and they don't have to actually do the pose. Same thing, oh, here's the shoe. Same thing. The kid who needs the strap comes up to me. There's no verbal connection. He sometimes doesn't make eye contact, grabs the strap, goes into the corner, and does whatever he wants with it. Go ahead. Another thing, for children, this I can't stress over Medi to Hetty at all. I can't stress enough over it. It's an amazing tool. He does all the yoga poses except for standing balancing because we all are mindful about our abilities and where we are that day. He's still practicing to stand. So I have a kid, it could be the Johnny kid that doesn't want to participate. It could be the Catherine who's sitting there and is just so shy and doesn't want to move or make that om sound at the beginning of class. They usually take this bear. They'll do the poses with the bear. It's gotten to the point where I've got some kids take this and decide that the bear is going to tell you what to do. And so I've made a game of it. Okay, everyone sits in this circle. We'll each have a turn with the bear and we'll each do certain poses. So this way, nobody's kind of odd man out. Nobody's being guided to do anything. They're teaching me whatever they want to do. They're having a great time. And then they do a whole class. Of course, I'll implement some things if they missed like a wide-legged something and they need a forward fold or something. That'll be my turn eventually.